agenda then is the confirmation of the agenda. Do we have a mover and seconder to confirm the agenda as it was circulated? Councillor Rose and Councillor Harold. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda this evening? Councillor Marshall, which item, if I could ask?
Sorry, I'm on delay. I'm hitting some delay. So I was trying to.
Oh, I see. Okay,
motion,
sorry.
So.
Yep,
Sorry.
it is delayed. Yes. Okay. Well, we'll kind of watch that, or I'll talk real slow. All right. Item number 4 is the consent agenda. We have 7 items on that consent agenda. Is there anything there that anybody would like pulled and dealt with separately, or else an explanation of what it means and dealt with immediately? Yeah, I don't see anybody's hand going up or being delayed going up. All right, so at this time, I would take a mover and seconder to accept the consent agenda as it was listed. Councillor Bell and Councillor Murray. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Good. All right, we do have a delegation tonight. We have delegation from the St. Mary's Healthcare Foundation, and it's a presentation, and we have Ken McCutcheon and Cindy Bilyea with us this evening. And I'm looking. There's Ken McCutcheon. There we go. I don't see Cindy. Ken, you are muted, by the way.
Cindy's actually presenting to South Perth tonight. So she
okay. All right. Okay, good. Okay. All right. Well, welcome, Ken, to our West Perth Zoom meeting. And we've been having a few little glitches here earlier on this evening, but I think we've got everybody present and accounted for that we can hear them. So I'll just turn the floor over to you, Ken, and you can deliver your message.
Well, thank you very much, Your Worship. I'd like to extend a sincere appreciation to both you, Mayor McKenzie, and fellow council members for entertaining our presentation to update you on what's happening in the St. Mary's Hospital in the near future, and asking for you to consider financial support for this project. There was a package, I believe, was distributed to council members. There was one thing missing on it, and that was a breakdown of the analysis of the usage in our hospital, and thus the requested amounts. But it is a prorated calculation, and I will see that our people in charge get that to your council if you want to receive that. This project started probably in 2016. At that time, the focus was to increase space for the clinical area in the hospital, and that's on the back part of our hospital. So that project originally was a little over a $3 million project, but at the time we went into fundraising, we asked the HPHA to work with us on upgrading the patient room portion of the existing hospital. So that was I guess best way to term it, it was a back burner project because priority was to build space in the clinic area. We did a $5 million project, or a fundraising project at that time. We're successful with that. We built the clinic, and now we've moved on to renovations in the hospital. But about the time we were just getting back into that project, COVID hit. And what's happened with COVID in that hospital was the realization that the hospital is not set up for dealing with infectious diseases. And that became quite evident in what was happening with patient movement, et cetera. The HPHA took the lead in this project during the COVID situation or the ongoing COVID situation, and have upgraded a lot of the work that was going to be done such that we would be able to meet the standards for the Canadian infectious disease for healthcare facilities. So what it's done, it's hugely increased the cost of us upgrading that hospital. Basically, if I could sum it up very briefly, we've gone from pretty much a cosmetic / functional upgrade to a strictly functional upgrade to deal with the infectious diseases. Some of the things that are mentioned that we're doing, but not limited to, is building a zero pressure isolation room. So patients that are infectious can be put in there without risk to the rest of the facility. Other things such as sanitization areas in all the rooms for staff, so they're not using the washroom facilities in the rooms. This hospital is not wheelchair accessible, so that's going to be done. A number of other smaller projects, but one of the things that will make these rooms look much different is a mechanized headboard system in these rooms. Part of our fundraising project back in 2016 also included new beds in the hospital. So that part has been done. But those beds came without patient lifts, so that will also be part of this project. The Healthcare Foundation is a very active organization. I'm not a member at this time. I'm a past member, but I still sit on the fundraising committee as chair. But over the duration while I was with the foundation, there was a number of upgrades that were initiated both in the clinic and in the hospital area. There was a new digital imagery room put in with new equipment, basically replacing our X-ray equipment. We've also upgraded the nurses station. We put in new communication center in the emerge department. We've also put in a new tub room. So a number of things have been continually being done in that hospital. We feel good about the progress and the fact that the HPHA take as much initiative and incentive as they do. However, the situation with this being an older hospital and not meeting those standards is a big concern to us and the HPHA, and rightfully so to people, that all staff that are working there. So where we are today is plans have been completed. We've gone from an estimated cost of fixing up that hospital originally at 1.2 million to slightly over $6 million. In our 2016 campaign, we raised those funds, planning on the 1.25 million. We've actually added to that over the years, so we're up to about 2 million, but we've committed 5 million to the HPHA to see this project through. So we're in a position where we're in a shortfall of $3 million. So we will be launching our campaign very soon. At this point, we are approaching all the municipalities in the area that have used the facility. They've been very generous in the past, right from the time of the original construction, right after the First or Second World War, to right up to our last major fundraiser. So we all of this that's been done over the years wouldn't be possible without the generous support of local municipalities and local businesses, and of course local individuals as well. We're certainly hoping this continues. The the plans, as I mentioned, are in place. Construction schedule is set for 1st of June of 2022. So it's definitely going ahead. We just need to do our work at this point to be able to pay for it. So we're appealing to you, your council. You have, according to records that we were given from the HPHA over the years of 2019 and 2020, West Perth had a registered usage in that hospital of 890 visits, which seems like a huge amount, but over that total period, the hospital itself registered 25,401 visits. So West Perth's percentage use works out to 3.5%. We've targeted the municipalities at 20% of our goal. So that would be a $600,000 goal from municipal governments. So if you look at 3.5% of $600,000, we come up with a number of $21,000. A bit of a comparison for you, obviously St. Mary's, the town of St. Mary's is by far the biggest user of that hospital. They've had a usage over the previous 2 years of just of almost $12,500 or 12,500 people. So they're about 50% of the usage of that hospital. I wanted to leave some time open for questions. I just wanted to reiterate, this is a project that is going to go ahead. We've been given that guarantee from the HPHA. So it's not a case of if we raise the money, they will build it. They will build it, we will raise the money. So I am appealing to you to consider the fact that there is a percentage of your residents that are using that facility. It certainly would be advantageous if we could make that facility up to standards that are expected now in Ontario healthcare. I'm going to turn it over at this point, Mayor McKenzie, for if there's questions on this proposal.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ken, for your presentation. Do we have any questions from members of council? Nicholas, go ahead.
Ken, this summer, on behalf of the provincial government, I think Randy Pettipies announced the $8.5 million for the St. Mary Memorial Hospital. How was that spent at the hospital?
The 8.5 didn't come to the St. Mary's Hospital. I think it came to the HPHA, which is an administrative over 4 hospitals, Stratford Hospital being the largest. And of course, they were the largest beneficiary of that. I believe that the number that actually came to St. Mary's was in the neighborhood of 790,000, some of which it is already being spent. That if you could imagine, that hospital didn't even have a fire protection sprinkler system. So that's been put in place, or they're working at putting that in place. There was a few other things that came up to speed, but the rest of those funds obviously will be going towards this retrofitting or rebuilding in the patient rooms.
Other questions for Ken? Okay, I don't see any. I guess what I would suggest in order to deal with this is maybe a motion that we refer this request to budget session and have it come up at that time. If we have a mover and seconder for that, then we can consider it then. So Councillor Marshall and Councillor Rose, that this be referred to our budget session coming up whenever It is. It'll be before next spring, anyways, for sure. So that's the motion. It's been moved and seconded. Any other questions with regards to that motion of referring it to budget? Okay, all those in favor of that motion? That is carried. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Ken. Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, moving on. The next item is the Chief Building Officials Report for the August permit summary. So Bob McLean, there we are, center. Okay, Bob, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie. Building permit summary for August, we had just under $1.5 million in construction value. Had 21 permits issued and 5 zoning certificates for the month. Permits are listed.
Any questions for Bob on the permits? No? Okay. Anything further to update, Bob?
Services are moving forward on Wimple Street for the True Built development there. We have we're having Mitchell Woods. We haven't seen a permit application yet. They have a few deficiencies with their servicing, but that is in process to be rectified, and we're waiting for stage 1 servicing approval from our engineers so that they can start building permits.
Okay, thank you. Question from Deputy Mayor Wright.
Bob, the natural gas has to be in before they can start over here by me, right? Like, that's the deficiency?
Part of the stage 1 servicing includes natural gas. If they were to call for building permits, they couldn't get occupancy of the building permits until they certify and deliver the natural gas service. So it could be in process of being installed, but they can't get occupancy of a residence until it's completed and certified.
Other questions for Bob? Okay, don't see anybody's hand going up. Anything else, Bob, that you want to say at this time?
There seems to be a lot of interest in development. We have a couple of subdivisions that are working towards draft plan approval. So things are moving along behind the scenes.
Very good, very good. Okay, if there's no further questions or comments, then a recommendation that I have here is that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth accepts the August building permit report as submitted. Do we have a mover and seconder for that report? Councillor Bink, Councillor Marshall, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
All right, the next item up then is the Recreation and Facilities Manager report, and Darcy's here front and center on my screen. So take it away, Darcy.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie and Council. My report's in regards to the COVID-19 new conditions of use as of the September 14th announcement by the province of Ontario that the new regulation 645/21 is in effect as of tomorrow. So we did update the conditions of use. My report kind of breaks down of what the responsibilities are going to be between the groups. Every user group has been made aware, and as of tomorrow, we will be looking to check vaccine receipts. So that is all. I'm just looking for a move to pass the conditions of use.
Okay, so the recommendation is here that we accept the COVID-19 conditions of use report as information, and that the council approves the COVID-19 conditions of use as presented. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Cheryl, Councillor Matheson, and Deputy Mayor Wright. Okay, all those in favor?
Can we have some questions, Walter? Or?
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry. Yep. Sorry. Go ahead. Question, Nicholas?
Yeah, please. Darcy, The provincial regulation, is there room for interpretation, or is it cut and dry and they laid out everything that we see here in the plan?
I believe the regulation is pretty cut and dry. There is some confusion between a guidance document that came out from the province. And it was mostly geared toward the coaches and volunteers not needing a vaccination receipt. But the regulation has no exemption for coaches and volunteers. So we, along with the rest of the Perth County municipalities, agree that we are going by the regulation, not the guidance document. It's frustrating that the province of Ontario released two separate ones and with contradicting interpretations, but we would go by the regulation, and until the regulation is changed, that's what we were going by.
Anyone else? Councillor Jankowski?
So I guess that answered one of my questions, because I was going to ask why there was no exemption available for coaches and volunteers and bench staff. My second question was for parents and guardians, like for the parents and guardians of the kids who are exempt from vaccine requirements. Who's going to be responsible, or who's going to hold the liability if those children are attending inside the arena for a sport to participate in the sport, yet the parents and guardians of those children aren't allowed inside the building? Like, how's that scenario going to be dealt with? Who's going to hold the responsibility for the safety of those children while they're inside the building, while their parents and guardians are left outside?
So my best answer for that, and I have spoke to it a couple times. I spoke to it at the minor sports meeting. Is it's still the responsibility of the parent to look after their child in our arena. If they're not allowed in and they have a child that is under the age and needs to have parent or supervision, then they either need to find someone that has supervision, or they have the responsibility of looking after their child. It's not us. And if there's children in there that should be under supervision, then we will call the right authorities to make sure that they are under the right supervision.
By calling, through you, your worship, by calling the right authorities, Darcy, what does that mean then?
Like if they're Jeff, do you want to jump in? Or no?
Yeah, I think it's a good time to just sort of say, look, I think that the regulations of the province don't involve setting aside other obligations and responsibilities of parents and guardians. And so if there's a thought that the way to deal with or get around the regulatory requirement is that a parent is going to set a young child loose in the arena and leave it to the arena staff to look after, that's not going to obviously be acceptable. Now, we're going to be very pragmatic about this. We're going to do it. We're doing the minimum that the province requires. And the obvious and prudent and sort of responsible solution is to ask another parent on the team that is able to be in the facility to look after their children, because municipalities offer recreation services, not babysitting services.
Councillor Bell?
And I think I already know the answer to this, Darcy, but just I'm going to ask this flat out. If we, and I don't know if supersedes the right word, if we were as a municipality to say, hey, you know what, we don't agree with this, let's let the parents of the children that are exempt come in anyway to look after their kids, what's the repercussions for us as a municipality if we did that? I mean, because that's a big question that people are asking is why not? Why don't we just go ahead as a municipality and make our own rules because we don't agree with these rules? So what is the
Councillor Bell, I guess I ask you, what part of the legislation that the province has legislated us to do you not understand?
No, I'm completely agreeing. I'm just asking Darcy, since we're being recorded, to maybe speak to repercussions for us as a municipality and arena if we do not follow, I guess maybe I didn't word it right, if we do not follow the government laid out document.
I think my answer would be if the province found out, or the health unit found out that we were going against legislation, we'd be shut down, and there would be no arena until we changed our rules back to the legislation. Like, they brought it legislation for a reason, and they have the ability to back that.
Okay, that's what I was kind of getting at. Just sort of where there's a lot of question out there, you know, maybe minor sports should go to bat for us to let volunteers be exempt. Maybe we should make our own decisions. I just wanted people to maybe be very, very aware that the answer is there's no arena. There's no rec facilities if we don't follow the document.
There's basically two options. You either follow what the province has legislated us to do, or you shut it up. You know, those are the two options that we have. Other comments? Councillor Tam.
I'm not sure how this is going to go with my camera moving in slow motion, but my question, Darcy, is two things. I'm not sure if you've heard anything about tomorrow about this storm the arena thing, or these demonstrations at arenas. That I understand there's talk of doing things at local arenas around here.
Yeah, the only one that I have actually heard of is there is an arena in South Bruce that has a Facebook page that's starting something. But locally, I haven't heard of anything as of right now.
Okay, I just heard a bit of rumbling, and I hope it's nothing. It's going to be a wet day, so they'll need to bring their umbrella.
Jeff
Thanks.
has a comment, I guess.
Yeah, and I just want to share for the benefit of council. Normally, I don't like to go through all the scenarios about what we'll do if, because I think we're, you know, you want to expect that we're a generally compliant society. But frankly, I think in this case, we have to think about what it would look like if we have people that storm past the security guard, and no one's going to be tackled. But I think we have to make our community aware that if you don't follow our conditions of use, you're considered to be trespassing. And so we'll call the police. And if the police can attend, the non-conforming users will be charged with trespass. If there's more than the police can manage, because there's a bunch of them, then they'll presumably charge as many as they can in the hour or the amount of time that they have. And that cycle will repeat itself as many times as it takes to get this sorted out. And in the meantime, we will have to pay extra for security for the purposes of protecting our staff and protecting the other residents that are there and are able to participate in the recreational sports. And I feel as a staff, we had no other option, because we are bound and we're obligated to implement provincial regulations. And frankly, if we're going to ignore them, I think we're going to be awry with the health unit and our own OPP. And I also would expect that we would get work refusals. I expect we'd get work refusals from staff, because I think we would be asking our staff to ignore a legislative requirement.
Deputy Mayor Wright.
I don't think common sense would prevail. Like, nobody's storming the Toronto Blue Jay game. They have to be double vaccinated. Everybody has to be. I had 2 conversations today. Trust me, I get a few, because trying to be out of the store as much as I can. If they stormed our facility, we could shut the ice off. That would be the end of it. Then we would never have a problem. We did that before. I don't know if people realize, a lot of people were slow to get vaccinated because they said, well, I didn't know that the Raptors, the Jays, the Leafs all require double vaccination. I think that came out a month or 6 weeks ago, and it would trickle down. It comes from the top down. So if they stormed our facility, to answer Mike, we could shut our ice off and go back to doing nothing, because the province tells us what we have to do. Darcy has to obey by it. We have to obey by it. I just think that common sense is going to prevail in this. Last year, we got to drop our kids off. I didn't, at the arena, skates on, and let them go into the arena to play. That was how we did it. When was that, Darcy? The start of whenever they could go to the ice, the parents couldn't go in at all. So it's not like we're rewriting the book. The book's there. We just have to do what's right.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Anybody else? Okay, the motion, sorry, Councillor Marshall.
Yeah, I certainly was at minor sports last week, and this came up with a number of people, and I understand the frustration. I'm gonna say a bit of a rant here, but I understand that there's lots of talk about individual rights on this situation, and this somebody who's certainly a small advocate of small government. I understand those concerns, but we're also losing sight of the fact that it's not just individual rights of the people who haven't got vaccinated. There's also rights of the people who have. One of the primary comments on the first on rights to begin with came from John Stuart Mills, who talked about you have a right to do anything as long as it doesn't harm other individuals. Not getting vaccinated or coming into these facilities not vaccinated potentially harms other individuals, and that's where we're. We need to be careful. We need to protect everyone in society. So, I've got friends and neighbors who sign this letters. I'm sure you all do, and it's just not. I certainly understand the concern on these. I certainly haven't agreed with every decision that we made, and I certainly haven't agreed with all the policies and regulations that the provincial and federal government have forced on us. But I don't believe that anybody's primary motivation was removing freedom from any individuals. But the intention was to prevent the prevention of harm to everybody. We've been pretty lucky. We haven't seen too much of this pandemic hit our community, but we still have been hit. We've had 77 confirmed cases in West Perth and probably many more. People across this health unit have been hospitalized, and there's been over 64 deaths. People will continue to lose their lives, and we need to try and prevent that. I just hope people can understand that while they have a right to choose not to take the vaccine, we also have a right to try and protect ourselves and our loved ones. So I think people just need to realize, take a moment and realize some of those that situation there too. So sorry if that's a bit of a rant, but
No,
thank you.
thank you, Jeff. Okay, last call. Anybody? Okay, this Councillor Frankowski.
Yeah, just through you, your worship, just to be clear, my question earlier was brought forward by a citizen, a ratepayer, so I asked that question on their behalf. So I would like that to be construed in the proper context, please. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, if there is nothing else, the motion was read earlier and it's been moved and seconded. I don't think we need to read it again. No, I don't think we have to read it again. Anyways, we've had I think a really good discussion about it. So ready for the question? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion is carried. Thank you. All right, moving on then. We have the treasurer's report, and it's the West Perth Consolidated Statements as of August the 31st. So Wendy, I'll let you take the floor and deal with that.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie, and good evening, Council. So this report is ran as of August 31st, and it is 8 out of the 12 months in reflection of the budget. So far, everything is still looking favorable, and I have no concerns. So I'll take any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Wendy with regards to that? Councillor Chinkowski.
Through your worship, Wendy, there was 4 items that caught my attention. 2 of them dealt with transfer from reserves. One was the roads and the other was the arena. The budgeted amount versus the actual amount. The actual amounts were in excess of 100%. The transfers for the roads were 179% over budget, or it was 179%. The arena was 142%. The roads being, instead of 119, it was the reserve transfer was 214,000 for the arena instead of 140,000. The transfer amount was 200,000. Could you shed some light on why why that is and what's happening with that transfer process, please?
Sure. I just don't have all of that information in front of me. I'd have to, can I take some time to get back to you on that one?
Yep, that's fine. I just wanted to bring that to your attention while you were here at the meeting. The other two items quickly, similar idea. Lions Park, the grounds maintenance. The original budget amount was 17,500, but the actual amount to date's over twice that at 36,100. And also I noted the increase in the tile drains under the operating supplies and expenses line item. 65,500 was budgeted. To date, we've spent 94,200. So I just wanted to get some more background information on that.
I can address that one because we were looking at that one today. So that is drainage. So construction work that's been already approved by council is just over budget. And so we're going to implement a new process that's going to track our construction costs and track it so you guys are more aware of those costs coming in. So it was, I believe, Miller Drain, and off the top of my head, I can't remember the other one that was really high. One was 60,000 and the other one was 22, I think.
I guess these are all municipal drains, and
they're municipal drains.
It's a guess at the best to know how many drains you're going to get in a year. You know, on a wet year, the following year, you're going to have a lot of requests for improvement to drains. And if it's been dry for a while, you maybe won't get quite so many. So it is what it is, and you guess a budget as best you can and try and hit it as best you can, but it's kind of a moving target. I think that's the best way to explain it. The other questions, Councillor Czerkowski, if you could, you know, in the future, if you could get them to Wendy ahead of time, then she could certainly have the answers to us at a meeting and have that information ready for you. So you can still ask the questions at the council meeting, just if you have her the heads up that you're going to ask it. I think that would help staff by quite a bit.
And I can, through you, Mayor, I can, the Lions Club one, or the Lions Park one, I believe is, you may recall, I'm quite certain we brought a report to council about the playground equipment and the need to upgrade the material that was in the Lions playground. And we actually brought a report to council to explain that that transfer would be occurring, but it would be probably 2 or 3 months ago now that report was brought to council.
Councillor Czerkowski?
Yeah, I through you, your worship, I understand that. I guess it just seems like that report from 2 or 3 months ago seems like 2 or 3 lifetimes ago in retrospect. And yeah, I will try and forward my questions prior to the meeting as time permits at this end. Thank you.
Oh, that's fine, Dean. Thanks a lot. Wendy, go ahead.
Can I just ask for clarification from Dean then? So the 2 items that haven't been addressed in your questions would be the roads and the arena transfers?
Yes, the roads and the arena transfers, Wendy, that's correct.
And would you be okay if I were to email all of council my response? Or would you like a report?
Just a brief report at our next meeting will suffice.
Okay.
A brief written report, or if you're attending in person, that's fine too. At our next meeting, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I can do that.
Okay, anybody else have any questions with Wendy's report there? All right. I do have a recommendation here then that the Council of Municipality of West Perth accept the West Perth Consolidated Statements as of August 31st, 2021 report dated September the 21st, 2021 as information. We have a mover and seconder for that, Councillor Bell, Councillor Rose. any further questions? Mike, you got a question? Sorry. You're delayed, Mike. I'm not sure if you have a question or you're just,
I was voting all in favor because I'm trying to guess what you're going to say next.
okay.
Mine's about 30 seconds behind.
Right, okay. Ready now, Mike? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And thank you, Wendy. We do have a recommendation here for auditor appointment, and I don't know if you want to address that at this particular time.
Hello. So that one is, so the last meeting was for the 2020 year, and this report is for the 2021 year. And so this, in the report, it kind of states that the group, the council or the county and the lower tier approved an RFP for a 5-year commitment to BDO. And so that commitment was completed for 2020. And so we've just extended it by 1 year.
Okay. And it's just an oversight that we didn't pick this up earlier. That's my understanding.
No, so the county brought it to council, I believe, in early part of August, and they had asked for a recommendation to go out and get a quote from BDO, and that is, they provided a quote for all the lower tiers. And what'll happen is we'll put out an RFP next year for a 5-year term. So just because of COVID and because of everyone was happy with BDO services, and we only had one accounting firm respond to the RFP. There was multiple factors that kind of brought it that we just extended it a year. Is that clear? Sorry.
Any other questions for our treasurer on that? Okay, the recommendation here then is that West Perth receives a report prepared by the treasurer dated September the 21st, entitled Auditor Appointment for Information, and that council, in accordance with Section 296 of the Municipal Act, authorize the appointment of BDO Canada LLP as the auditors for the municipality of West Perth for the 2021 fiscal year, and that council also authorizes the treasurer to sign the audit engagement letters for the corporation and trust fund. Do we have a mover and seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Vink and Councillor Marshall. Okay, last chance questions. Okay, ready for the vote then? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. All right, correspondence. We do have a letter that was in the in your packet from Danny Wolf, and we do have a recommendation there. And the recommendation is that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth receives the letter from Denny Wolf and others, other concerned residents in regard to the proof of vaccination at the Mitchell Arena, and that the facilities manager Cook provides a reply to Denny Wolf and other residents outlining the policy as approved by West Perth Council. Do we have a mover and seconder for that motion? Councillor Rose and Councillor Tunkowski. Comments before we proceed here? Deputy Mayor Wright.
Could we also post that on our website, and even maybe get Andy to do it in the paper so that everybody's on the same page? Right now we're singling out a group of about 20, 25 people. Whereas everybody should know our policy. I think it would be good to be on the website. They can look it up. Mitchell Minor Sports, I believe hockey has it already listed on their website, what the OMHA and the Provincial Women's Hockey Association's regulations. I know the kids don't have to be vaccinated till a little later, but it is listed on our website. Could we do it on our municipal website, please?
Yep,
So in answer to the question through you, Mayor McKenzie, to Deputy Mayor Wright's question. We have the press release written. We obviously weren't going to issue the press release until we had council's approval and authorization of the policy. We chose to wait to show it to council. Some municipalities couldn't because of their timing, and issued the press release as a staff action. So yes, we'll be issuing the press release, and we will put the policy on our website.
Okay, anybody else? Oh, sorry, Councillor Trinkowski.
Through you, your worship, yes, I support Deputy Mayor Wright's comments and request. Instead of submitting my list of questions to staff, I spent my time fielding calls and questions and visits from ratepayers about this subject. So I would appreciate if we could communicate the requirements clearly to all citizens of the municipality. Thank you.
Okay, so noted. Okay, we have moved and seconded that particular recommendation. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that is carried. All right. Next item then is council reports, and the first one is the Sabo Bayfield Conservation Authority board meeting from July the 15th. And we did have the agenda, I guess, for the September 16th meeting. So Councillor Tam, you have anything you want to highlight there?
I don't think so. There's we had the July meeting. There's quite a few violations along the shoreline mainly, but that's kind of standard for this time of year and seems to be growing a bit every year. August we didn't have a meeting, and then last Thursday, September 16th, there was a meeting, and there was a luncheon after to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the ABCA. If there's any questions, I'd try and answer them.
Okay, any questions for Councillor Tam? Okay, don't see any. The next one then is Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, the Board of Directors meeting for August the 24th. And Councillor Murray, do you have anything there you want to highlight?
No, I don't have anything to highlight. We have another meeting next week already, so any questions, I'd be happy to get an answer to you.
Questions for Anna Marie? Councillor Bink.
Each week in the newspaper, we see surrounding municipalities, Grand River or Sabo Bayfield, offering incentives for example, cover crop to prevent soil erosion. Is that something that Upper Thames is considering?
Well, they do a lot of trialing with that sort of thing. Whether they themselves give out money for that, I'd have to ask to be sure. I will get back to you.
I think, and maybe Jeff can maybe speak to this, but I think it's levied through the counties, through the clean water. And I know Perth County had that proposal a number of years ago and they decided not to go with it. Yeah. But Huron County does, and it ties you in, the county puts a certain amount of dollars towards it, as well as the conservation authorities. And maybe I'll just ask Jeff to comment. He maybe has a little bit more detail on how this works, but it's a good program. It's just that in Perth County, there was no appetite at that particular time to go into it.
Yeah, actually, Mayor McKenzie's pretty well explained it. If you see a Sabo Bayfield or offering incentives, it'll generally be through the Huron Clean Water Program. So the Upper Thames, and all the conservation authorities, I wouldn't want to single out the Upper Thames, offer incentives for tree planting and a number of activities, but there is an extra basket of program incentives, including cover crops, that come with the Clean Water Program. And so the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority and Sabo Bayfield administered Clean Water Program in Huron County. There's a clean water program, an extensive clean water program administered by the Grand River Conservation Authority on behalf of Wellington Wellington and also Waterloo and Waterloo region, I should say, are big participants in that program. And I think it goes right down to the lake. And Oxford County is a very active clean water program. So Perth, I think there's been a proposal made to Perth as recently as 3 or 4 years ago for Perth County to start a clean water program to support the agricultural community locally, and also to have a program like other municipalities in the area. And I'm not certain if they'll be bringing another one back, but it was turned down the last time. The County of Perth chose not to support it.
Councillor Chinkowski?
Through you, your worship, for further to Councillor Bink's question and further to the comments made so far, I made proposed an amendment which was accepted in our West Perth strategic plan on this very subject. So I think it behooves us to pursue this idea further and to communicate to the rest of our peers at the county that this is indeed something important to the future viability of our agricultural sector, and we need to proceed further with this idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Any other questions with regards to Upper Thames? Okay, the recommendation I have here is to deal with staff reports, and it's that West Perth accepts the reports from staff and councillors as presented, and further that all committee minutes and correspondence not specifically dealt with by resolution be received and filed. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Tam and Councillor Marshall. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. I'm thinking out loud here, and that's kind of dangerous. And Dan is getting worried. He's looking at me, and probably Jeff too. Further to Councillor Trankowski's comments there, certainly there's nothing wrong with West Perth sending a letter to the county indicating that it might be a good idea to reconsider that program in next year's budget or a future budget, and it gets it back onto the floor for them to toss around. If nothing else, if you wanted to do that, I'd certainly entertain a motion. Councillor Chinkowski, you can word it how you want, but just that we send a letter to the county, I think.
Well, I won't. Could I could draft a motion in preparation for our next meeting?
Sure, that would be fine.
Yeah, in keeping with your comments earlier about sending stuff in advance. Yeah, I'll work on that and send it in for perusal and so forth.
Okay.
And I'll add, and certainly Councillor Chankowski will be happy to assist you with the wording for that motion, but I'll add for the benefit of council that the motion can certainly include the wording that it's consistent with the strategic plan of the county and the municipality of West Perth to support the agricultural community, because you'll all recall the similarity of those strategic plans. And so it's a great add to have that in the motion.
All right. Okay. Moving on to bylaws, and really it's a bylaw. We only have one here tonight. It's bylaw 71, being a bylaw to appoint a municipal auditor for the 2021 term. And the recommendation is that Municipality of West Perth gives first, second, and third reading and final reading to bylaw 71, 2021, this 21st day of September. And the mayor and clerk are hereby directed to sign and same and fix the corporate seal there too. Have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Rose, Councillor Harold. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Very good. The announcements are there, upcoming meetings. I would just remind you of the special council meeting, the closed council meeting on the 26th to deal with asset management. And to get us
What time is that meeting, Walter?
Pardon?
What time is that meeting at,
Oh,
Walter?
that's a good question, Nicholas. I'm not sure. Jeff?
9:30 to 12:30?
It's a morning meeting. Okay. I wasn't just quite sure on that one. So yeah, okay, it's in the book. 9:30 to lunch. Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay. Any notices of motion? None that I'm aware of. Any other business at this particular time? Counselor, no, our clerk, Dan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to bring our treasurer Wendy back. She just has a bit of an update on Mayor or Deputy Mayor Eit's question last council meeting about the Mitchell Fish and Gaming Club.
Hello. So what I have found out for the Mitchell Gun Club is that there is a lease agreement with the county that was been in place since 1961. We're still waiting to hear back from MPAC, but I think from reading the Assessment Act, I'll just read you the section that it pertains to. It says land owned by a municipality, including an upper tier municipality, public commission, or a local board, as defined by the Municipal Affairs Act. The land is not exempt if occupied by a tenant who would be taxable if the tenant owned the land, except land owned by a harbor commission and used for parking vehicles for which fees are charged. And so when I looked at, I called Perth East, and the gun clubs there are being taxed. There is, the county does have a rebate program, and that's under bylaw 2672. But there is a section 5 of Schedule A, and it says the following organizations that are not charitable in nature or provide benefit only to a narrow segment of the community are not eligible for a rebate, even if other criteria are met. Such organizations include, but are not limited to, artist studios, social clubs, veteran club, private clubs, trade unions, property management offices, associates, professional and trade, credit union, pension, and non-profit business trade organization. So my understanding of all that would be that they are to pay tax.
In some case, oh, go ahead, Doug, you have a question.
Just it's not a gun club. You should never
Okay.
use that word. it's a fish, it's a pond.
Okay, sorry.
Club. And I know I would compare it more to the campground that was the camp for kids that was exempt called Galbraith Optimus Camp. But I'm also working with the county because the county is actually theirs, not ours. They're digging deeper into it. What we're looking for in the end is a rebate. If it's taxable as a pond,
okay,
and I'm working with Corey to try to cipher through it to see. But there's no guns go off there. Just if anybody hears this, and it's not, it's a fish club. There's a pond
okay,
there,
sorry
and
about that.
a gun club would be different because they probably it's regulated. But this is a fish and game club. So
but there used to be rifle shooting down there.
Yeah, and that's where maybe she got gun club out of it. But yeah.
Yeah, maybe the original lease says that, or
yeah.
Okay.
And it's quite possible. If they obtained a charitable license or charitable number and were treated as a charity, there would be a little bit of leeway there, would you not, Wendy?
Yeah, so then it would fall under the county's bylaws 2672, and it is for a rebate program.
So are they eligible to apply for as a charity?
As long as they meet Revenue Canada standards, yes.
Okay, and I don't know what those standards are, but there would certainly be worthwhile for them to look into that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
May I interject, Ms. Mayor? The county has contacted them, got the information of how many youth programs they do, because they have archery, they have fishing, they have all their stuff. So the county has contacted Mr. Woods and talk to them about all that also. And so again, it's in motion. We're just waiting to see. Hopefully it comes up at county council, possibly the next meeting or the second meeting in October. And we'll have some direction from both ends, but thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Okay, anything else under other business? Okay, we do not have a closed session tonight.
Dean has his hand up.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Dean, go ahead.
Okay, through you, your worship, a question or something I noticed. My question is with respect to the climate change coordinator. I seem to recall that they were going to come back to West Perth Council with a report on the survey that was done towards the end of, I think it was December of 2020. I raised that question because I noticed that the climate change coordinator who's employed by the different municipalities in Perth County, they're making their third presentation to a citizens group later this week, and we haven't had the opportunity to have a presentation from that person at all. So I just wanted to follow up on the status of that situation.
Jeff?
So we have them scheduled for October 4th. We would have actually had it on tonight's agenda. And the reason they're not on tonight's agenda is there's 2 other council meetings tonight, and she couldn't be in all 3 places. So we'll have her, I think we have her on the agenda planning for October 4th. Quite certain, actually.
And we did lose a little bit of time on that, Councillor Trinkowski, because the original one moved on, and so we had to hire, there was a new hiring process and another person put in place, so they're just kind of getting their feet wet and getting into the process. But as Jeff said, they will be coming at a future meeting. If there's nothing else under anything under other business or anything, we do have a confirmatory bylaw, and it's bylaw 72, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Corporation of the Municipality of West Perth be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Mover and seconder for that, Councillor Rose, Councillor Murray. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. And then a motion to adjourn at 8:08. Councillor Rose and Councillor Marshall. All those in favor? That is carried, and we are adjourned. Thank you.